Today, we're talking about the revenue funnel for remodelers and custom builders. We're going to break it all down. We're going to look at benchmarks to look at. We're going to walk through an example, and I'll show you exactly how to diagnose your own revenue funnel so that you can get more revenue for less marketing costs, or just have the peace of mind that you can scale up your marketing. So let's start with our marketing and sales funnel, or our revenue funnel. And so at the top, we're just going to have website traffic. And so if nobody is getting to your website, then nobody really knows you exist. And so that's where we're going to start. If they see a job site sign, if they see a Google ad, if they find you on social, all roads kind of lead back to the website. So that's where we're going to start. And then next we have leads. Once people arrive at your website, we can't really do anything unless they fill out some type of form or engage with us or interact with us. And so we need to capture some information. So we move to leads, and then we move to sales qualified leads, or SQLs. So these are going to be leads that are the right fit for you, right project, right area, right budget. Then we've got our first appointment. And so this is typically your in-home appointment. You've already gotten on the phone, you pre-qualified them, you said, yes, we want to meet with this person, and we book an appointment. And then we have design, or if you don't do design, this might be an estimate. And then you have closed, or customers. So this would be construction contracts. Okay, so this is our revenue funnel. Okay, so let's look at some benchmarks and what to expect. And so at each stage here, we have a conversion, and that's why this goes more narrow, because if you have 1,000 people visit your website, the most you could get out here would be 1,000 if you just had 100% conversion all the way through. That's not what happens. So we have a big drop off right from traffic to leads, but your typical conversion rate here, kind of like go right here, this is going to be your 1 to 3%. It's kind of a good benchmark. Most remodelers and custom builders that we see before we start working with them are at about 0.5%. And so the goal is to move that up into this range. You can definitely get above this range, but if you're in this range, there's a good chance that you're kind of hitting some general benchmarks, and that may not be the problem. Then once we've got some leads, the question is how many of those leads were actually the type of leads that we wanted. And so we're going to draw this here, and this is going to be kind of our 40 to 60%. So if you got 100 leads, maybe 50 of them were actually qualified people that you wanted to talk to. Okay, then we go from sales qualified lead to appointment. If you've qualified them, then hopefully you are booking lots of those into appointments. And so this conversion rate should be, 70 to 80%. When you're talking to the right person and they're a fit for your services, we want to see this as a really strong conversion to that first appointment. Once we've got them at the appointment stage, we're going to convert them into design or an estimate. And so this is going to be somewhere in that 20 to 30%. If you're closing less than 20%, there's probably an issue here in terms of how you're presenting, how you're pitching. If you're more than 30%, if you're in the 50% range, you might actually have some opportunity to raise some pricing. But this is a good benchmark to be shooting for. And then finally we see, hey, once somebody has moved into design, we should see that we're moving tons of people in, 80 to 95%. The 80% is really if you're doing a lot lower volume, one missed deal can really skew it. But this is a good target. We want most of the people, most everyone that moves into design, moving forward with construction. Okay, so these are some general guidelines. Obviously, context is going to matter, but this will help you quickly identify if you are below any of these benchmarks, then that is a spot to dig into a little bit further. So these are our benchmarks, and then we're going to look at a real example. So let's say we're getting 2,000 visits to our website. If we are converting 2%, then we are going to end up with 40 leads. So this is going to be that, we'll do it on this side, 2%. So we're kind of in the middle of this range here. We're going to get 40 leads. Then we're going to drop down to our sales qualified leads. So again, how many of these 40 people, when we get on the phone with them, meet that criteria of right budget, right area, right project type? So we're going to have our conversion rate here, and we're going to have 50%. And so we're going to end up with 20 sales qualified leads. And now we're going to move to first appointment. So out of those phone calls, we booked 13 first appointments. And so that would be a 65% conversion. That means 65% of the sales qualified leads we talked to, we successfully booked a first appointment. Then out of those 13, we moved 4 into design. And that means we got 30% of these people to move in. Probably had to do some rounding there. And then 80% moved into projects. That's 3. It's really 75, but we're gonna round there. Okay. So in this real example, the first thing we do is kind of look at the benchmark, and we go, okay, we're kind of converting right in the middle of this range. Seems fine. Seems fine. Then we go, oh, interesting. This one's a little bit below the benchmark. So maybe there's something here to dig into. Hey, we're right there with closing about 30% of our first appointments into design, and then we're kind of right here at the in the bottom end of the range, but we're in the range here. So the first place that we would look in this example would just be, hey, right here. This is below this benchmark. So what are we doing to set these first appointments? And now we can drill into the phone pre-qualification call. And so fundamentally, this is how you break down your entire revenue funnel and then try to diagnose it and then go fix it. Is we're looking at all these conversion rates all the way to the bottom. And you can see even like 2,000 website visitors, we get 3 customers. And so you're looking at different things from an opportunity cost standpoint or a how easy is this going to be to fix standpoint. So if we're saying, hey, we got 20 calls, why did we only book 13 appointments? Let's go review all of those calls. Who's running those calls? Are they being run the same way? Maybe do we have a pre-qualification script for that call? Do we have some standard questions that we really want to get answered there? And why isn't this closer to like 80%? Because if it's a right fit for us and they're reaching out and we're actually on the phone, we should be converting a lot of those people. And so then we'd go through that checklist and say, okay, we need to tighten up phone pre-qualification. You might look at that and say, that sounds really hard. So, well, I kind of have a recipe here. 2,000 visits equals 3 customers. How hard would it be to generate 4,000 visits if I wanted to double my business and get 6 customers? Well, then you would have to look at, okay, what are all the activities I'm doing up here to generate 2,000 website visitors? Maybe you're running some paid ads, maybe you're doing some content, maybe you're doing some social media, you're doing lots of different things. You would go and drill in to those 2,000 and see where is that traffic coming from. And that will be another way that you could say, hey, that might actually be easier than this. Probably isn't in this scenario, but that would be an example. Like this is probably going to be easier in just saying, wow, we don't even have a pre-qualification phone script and we don't have a standard process of doing this. Maybe we can incentivize people to book that appointment. Maybe we can add a little bonus or something and we can pop this up, because if you get this to 80%, so then this becomes 16 if you get it up to that 80% by improving that. And then if everything below that stays the same, we're going to take our 16 times 30%. We're going to get 4.8, almost 5, but over the course of multiple months, that's going to ramp up. And then we're going to get almost 4. So it's not quite, but again, over months, this will average out to an increase that's not quite 30% growth there. But you can see how very quickly you can start to accelerate the bottom of the funnel and how many customers you're getting. If you can increase at the top and everything flows down the same, this number starts to magnify. And so that's why it is worth looking at anything down here for low-hanging fruit, because if you can get some big lifts, it'll have a big impact down here. And a lot of times, really from here down, these are all sales things. These are things that we're working on from a sales perspective. And so a lot of these come down to process, training, scripting, things that may not take a lot of extra dollars. They may take a lot of extra time. Now, maybe you hire a consultant, and yes, you're going to spend some outside money. So I'm not saying you won't spend money. Maybe we're going to buy some technology that will automate some things, follow up better. There is ways that you can spend actual dollars to improve these. But if you were to just say, hey, I want to double my website traffic, then you're probably looking at whatever your marketing budget is for digital and saying, what if I doubled it? And so that can be sometimes more expensive. But let's walk through an example where we do increase the top. So let's say you still have 2,000 website visitors, but you're like, I think I could get my conversion rate up. We're not doing a great job with our calls to action. We don't have a lot of compelling resources for people that are maybe researching. We haven't really tested, A/B tested colors or placement. We haven't used pop-ups. I think I could get that to 3%. If you could get that to 3%, this is going to jump up to 60 leads. And so all the way down, if everything stays the same, we just improved this by 50%. And so if we cut to the chase, this is going to go up by 50%. And so this is actually going to be 4.5. And so again, that doesn't look like a lot on a small scale from 3 to 4.5, but that's 50% more customers, 50% more revenue. And so there are really big impacts that come from just diagnosing what's going on in your funnel and saying, hey, if I can just improve, this number or this number right here, the higher up you go, it flows down and has that magnified throughput there. So you'd take your 60 and then you'd go at 65%. This conversion rate going from 2 to 3% bumps that up to 60, and then you maintain your conversion rate all the way through. So if you get a 50% lift here and this all stays the same, you'll get a 50% lift down here. As you're looking at your own funnel, you're basically weighing, hey, I have limited time, I have limited budget. First, I want to highlight anything that I think would be low-hanging fruit and below the benchmarks, right? So we spotted this one. But other than that, if you're really trying to maximize the dollars that you're already spending to get this, then you're going to be looking at what am I doing from traffic to leads? That's a conversion issue. So we're going to dig into conversion things. From leads to sales qualified leads, that is two components. That's going to be, where am I getting my leads? Am I targeting the right people? And so there's a quality component to the marketing, everything we're doing up here to drive traffic. And then there's a follow-up component, and that's a sales component. When I get leads, do I call them quickly to get them on the phone? Do I call them multiple times? Do I text them? Do I continue to follow up? And so if you're not seeing a high conversion from leads to sales qualified leads, you want to look at both of those things. You want to look at how are you positioning your marketing? Where are you targeting? How are you attracting people? And then how are you following up? Are you following up quickly, persistently, and getting that speed to lead down? Then from here to here, we went through that example. That's a phone pre-qualification issue. So, hey, do we have scripts? Are we incentivizing people to book appointments? Are we standardizing that process? And if not, then we have an issue there. From first appointment to design, if we're closing low here, then that's where we'd want to look at our offer. Hey, are we pitching design? Do we have like a clear package and name, deliverables? Are we using bonuses, guarantees? And that would be your remodeler design offer. And then from design to estimate, if you're losing a lot of people from design to estimate, is it because maybe by the time you get to this contract, the price isn't, in line with the initial budget? Maybe you're not impressing people with your design. Maybe the process took super long. So then you would be analyzing those components. And so step one, hey, are we hitting the benchmarks? If we're below, let's spotlight into those areas. But also at the end of the day, step number two is just, okay, this is my funnel. If I want more here, I can just spend more and get more. And so if you're happy with this and you're saying, hey, I put $10,000 in here and I get 3 customers and they're worth $500,000 total, I love that trade, then it just tells you just increase the top, and you just kind of know what the conversion rates are, and for every dollar that goes in here, I get this much traffic, I get this many customers. And so those are the 2 big ways to look at your revenue funnel. One is, am I in line with the benchmarks and can I get more efficiency out of it? Or 2, do I like the efficiency of it? And now I just know the recipe, what goes in and then what goes out. So that's how you use this revenue funnel. Hopefully you will take this and run your own numbers and see where you're at and see if you can spot any deficiencies so you know where the low-hanging fruit is. And if you're happy with it, then I would just encourage you to, hey, let's ramp up and you can start seeing your revenue grow up. All right, we'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.